Welcome to the Hidden Why podcast, episode 1130. Fantastic episode dropping on you today. This is with Lesley, Gordon-Christie, and she is the founder of BUFFnation. You're going to want to stay tuned to this one. Such great insights and just little snippets and takeouts that you can use in your daily life to help change your mindset and amplify your life. We talk about breaking free from the unconscious patterns that keep us stuck, especially in relation for women in their 40s, but I think it's related to all of us, right? Wherever you are in life and whether you're a male or a female, this is a powerful conversation. Lesley dives into the 4 weight archetypes, which is pretty cool too, and there's a link to that in the show notes, so check that out as well and stay tuned. She shares a bit more of info and insight into what that's all about and how you can silence your inner critic. Inner critic is that voice inside our head that stops us from really excelling and proceeding towards those goals that we really want to achieve. We often know what we don't want to do, but we don't know how to change that and how to unstuck ourselves from doing the actions that will help us move forward to our powerful next chapter in our life, setting goals, aligning ourselves with our values. So much good content in this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure again you reach out to us at thehiddenwhy.com. Links for Lesley in the show notes there as well. Would love to connect further with you. You can reach me through the website there as well and enjoy this conversation with Lesley Gordon-Christie. Lesley, welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to be here.
Looking forward to a powerful conversation with you today. You've been doing this for a while, BUFFnation.
Yes, it's almost, oh my gosh, we're embarking upon perhaps 2 decades, maybe about 16 years. So it's been a lovely, wonderful journey.
And you said you had a background media career.
Yes, I come from a world of media. Actually, that was kind of like I like to quote unquote real job, or so I thought, right? And I was in the media for probably over a decade. And then I hired a coach to get to the next level of media. And what I realized through the process was I was actually out of alignment with my values. And so thus prompted, learning to be a coach myself, going back to what I started to do in high school, which was teach fitness classes, and then bringing them together in a business. And that's what BUFFnation is: beautiful, unique, fearless female. And it's really about helping women step into the best versions of themselves through mindset, movement, and authentic self-connection.
Okay, cool. Well, we have a wide audience here and many women listening to this program, so I'm sure they will love this. But the men as well, I'm sure will get some value out of our conversation too.
Absolutely.
So BUFFnation, I'm glad you highlighted that. Say again, so what does BUFF stand for?
BUFF stands for beautiful, unique, fearless female, and nation meaning we're stronger together.
Okay, good. And I notice you talk with a lot of women over 40s.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, I've actually found that this is a time in life when kids may be older or they're getting older. Maybe they've moved out of the house. You're starting to kind of wonder what's in it for me now. What is my next journey? What is my next step? And I actually find this is an incredible time period in your life because you've got an opportunity now to focus on you and to focus on some things maybe you haven't done that you really want to do. So I love this age group. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I'm 50, so it works well.
Yeah, right. I think men go through this at the age of 40. I think we all do, right? You have that sort of what they call midlife crisis. But it's really about that change into the next evolution of our life.
Absolutely. And it's an exciting opportunity. Just because we're getting older, I don't subscribe to the belief that life slows down. I think it actually opens more doors if we're ready to ask which doors to open and then, of course, have the courage to walk through.
Yeah. I think it could be probably our best years if we fall into alignment with what we should be doing or want to be doing.
Absolutely, because we have more wisdom and we have life experience and we now know what we don't want. So we can figure out what we do want.
Yeah. What do you find the most challenges are of women in their 40s that you sort of first made contact with?
I actually find it's that self-talk inside their head, that little voice that talks them out of success or tells them they can't do something or tells them they're not worth it. I find that's actually a really big thing. So my first thing that I do when I start to work with someone, whether it's a group or one-on-one, is help them really quiet that voice and just kind of quiet their life so they can start to feel that actual voice coming from within, whether it's higher power, it's spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's that connection to something greater.
Okay. How do you work with a client to help them quiet that inner voice? Because we all have that inner voice, self-doubt, disbelief, all that.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we talk about the importance of the awareness of your thoughts become things. So I like to say thoughts become feelings, feelings become actions, and actions give you results. And so a lot of it has to do with putting new messages inside your subconscious mind every single day. So I usually get my clients to listen to something every day. I'm trained from Proctor Gallagher Institute, so a lot of it is Bob Proctor training, right? And so we're listening to something every day. But once you start to give yourself new messages, then you can start to realize where the old ones were and which ones might be limiting you. So the first thing I would say to someone is, tell me where you want to go. Like, what is your goal? What is your vision? And sometimes people have a difficult time doing that, but we'll kind of get a direction anyway. And once we set the goal, then we start to move to it. All the limitations come up. This is what I like to call your paradigm or your program. It kind of just like comes out. As soon as you start to move forward, you might be frustrated with something, something might trigger you. That's your internal program. And your internal program, and we know this from, coaching with clients and working with clients, 96 to 98% of everything we do is a subconscious program. 96 to 98%. And so a lot of times it's just teaching clients that and helping them realize that when we have stories that replay in our mind, most of the time they're the same ones, they're recurring stories, and we've got to become aware of those. And then we can look at them and dismantle them and then reprogram them.
Most are negative as well.
Yeah, most of them, because we as human beings, we have a negative bias. We are naturally programmed to see the negative in everything, unless, of course, we work on that. But we also know what you focus on grows. We know that, right? What you focus on grows. It's the reason why you want to buy a new car and you start to notice everyone has that same new car. It's not everyone has the same new car. It's just you're tuned into that, your reticular activating system, bringing you proof of what you're focusing on. So if we can change that bias to be one of positivity, we can start to see different results in our lives and start to feel differently. So that's really the first step, is really the awareness piece, the education piece of how the subconscious works, and then, of course, getting a goal that you really want that's going to make doing this work worthwhile.
Okay. Couple of questions there. You said, talk about change the messaging and listening to something different. What do you mean by that? Like listening to a podcast or listening to your self-affirmations? What is that?
A couple of things. So when you come into my program, what I would have you do is, again, I'm a coach with Proctor Gallagher. So I would have you listening to a lesson every day. And that lesson is going to be something about how thoughts become things, how decision-making is important, how the focus of awareness is really big, intellectual faculties. So I would have you listening to something different from the chaos around you. So you're really learning about what you can do as a human being when it comes to your creative faculties. And when that power flows to and through you, the creative power, we have the option to think about it how we want. And the idea is to teach you to get your thinking in line with your goals. Yeah. And so that's why we have to give ourselves new messages. It's kind of like when we say, if we go on a diet, it's about watching the kinds of foods we're putting in our mouths, but it's really the same thing when we're going through a transformation. We've got to, watch the thoughts that we're putting in our head.
Watching what we consume mindfully. What's the science behind that? Because it is fascinating. And I do that. I've been doing it for as long as this podcast has been running longer. And rather than getting up and, what I used to do and what probably a lot of people do is turning on the news and things like that. Now I listen to a motivational podcast or something like that in the morning. And it doesn't have to be anything in particular. I just listen to it and it's more empowering than the other stuff and all the other noise around us. But what is the science behind that messaging? Is it just because it does actually change our inner thoughts?
Well, it is, if you go back to the RAS or the reticular activating system, and if you've never heard of this before, look it up, anyone who's listening, because it's really working like a GPS. I mean, it does so many other things in the brain, but it's really working like a GPS. You tell yourself what to focus on by what you're focusing on most often. So if you're getting up in the morning and you're checking your cell phone and you're reacting to emails coming in, how is that going to make you feel throughout the day? I mean, we've been there. Right? But if we can actually put some positive messages in and think about, okay, what do we want to focus on today? We're going to get a different result. And the research behind even gratitude and taking a moment in the morning and practicing gratitude, writing down 3 things, keeping a gratitude journal, whether it's in the morning or at night, so much research about the positivity that happens to your health, to your well-being, to your happiness, reducing anxiety, reducing stress. So it's all where we're putting our focus, because that focus is going to determine our results.
Where we put our energy as well. Talk to us. We have heard about the RAS before. Many people that are listening perhaps haven't. What is the RAS, reticular activating system?
Yeah, it's a portion of your brain that is responsible for so many different things. But one of the things that it does is it acts like a GPS system. So you can put into it the destination where you want to go by what you choose to focus on. So for example, it's important to know, because if you are up for a promotion or you're moving forward in a job, but you tell yourself all the time, I can't do this, the reticular activating system is going to bring you proof of what you focus on. So you're going to see proof, right, of all the reasons why you can't do something. But if you can switch that to, I can do this, I am capable of doing this, I can see my potential, and you are focusing on that, you're going to see evidence of that. And you can really notice the difference when you start to put this into play with your job or even in a relationship, how you go about doing things and what you're focusing on. Sometimes I'll have women say to me, okay, how can I improve, the relationship with my husband? And I'll say, let's use this. Let's focus on all the positives rather than all the negatives and see what happens with your RAS. And they come back and they say, wow, this is absolutely incredible. Like, I'm starting to notice all the positives. And it's because you're sitting there and naming off all the things that maybe aren't so great.
Yeah, I like it. I had another question for you with all that too. Oh, yes, goals. So people must struggle with goals. Like, what are your goals? And if they're being lost through, raising a family or whatever it might be, or a job that hasn't been working, it's hard to then tune into, well, what do I actually really want? And I find a lot of people I talk to in this age bracket, they don't really know what they want, but they just know they don't want this. There's just like, I'm done with this. I can't see myself doing it anymore. Both men and women, right?
Yeah,
it is. How do you help people figure out, their goals?
Yeah, well, you said something that is just perfect. They know what they don't want. And if you know what you don't want, start, because you can assume you want the opposite or you don't want what you're experiencing. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, we're so busy as human beings, constantly sidetracked by everybody else's noise. How many times do we actually sit down, quiet our minds, and think about something about where we want to go? And so I love this way of looking at something. A mentor said it to me, and I talk about it all the time, and I use it in my life. The quality of your results have to do with the quality of questions that you ask yourself. The quality of your results have to do with the quality of questions you ask yourself. So if you are unsure, it's about asking the question, but then we have to be quiet enough and open enough to get the answer.
Yeah. The noise and the chaos and the overwhelm and the busyness of today's lifestyles is hard to do that, right? So to create that space where you can ask those questions and the quietness to listen to the answers that it might bring, what do you subscribe? Is it like meditation? Is it flicking off social medias? Is it going on a vacation into the mountains and sitting in a cave for a week? Like, what do we do?
I think it's going to depend on the person.
Yeah.
I know for myself, disconnecting and putting my phone away and not being influenced by social media and getting out in nature is really, really powerful. For someone else, it might be heading off on a holiday, disconnecting from people, getting into the water. Whatever brings you a little bit of joy, lean into that and allow yourself to just be, because a lot of times we're afraid to do that.
Yeah.
We're afraid to get quiet. But if we really want to know where we want to go, we have to ask the question. But again, we have to be quiet enough to hear the response and be open to it.
Yeah. I always find, walking into nature, going for a hike or something like that, some of my best moments and clarity come through that experience.
So
and
true.
often just going on a holiday, getting out of the office. I'm a busy person. I love working and it consumes me. So getting away from this often gives me that clarity and space too.
Yeah, I can remember when we moved to a new just in the past few years we moved to a smaller town, and I moved to a smaller town and I wasn't as connected with people just because of where I lived. I wasn't like going and I was doing a lot of stuff online. And at first it was really uncomfortable because I was used to being busy and out and doing things. But the more things kind of slowed down, it actually allowed me to figure out, okay, I can see how this can be beneficial because I'm no longer impacted by what my friends are doing or what everyone else is doing or what is happening on TV. I'm actually thinking about like what is in my soul and what is my point of being here. And that really brought clarity for me. And I find if people can do that, as uncomfortable as it is at first, you look back and you think, wow, that was a powerful opportunity for me to get super clear.
Do you find, a lot of people do struggle with it, right? Like to say, okay, I'm just going to remove myself from this or that or whatever it might be. We feel like somehow we might miss out or we might miss some opportunities when in actual fact, we're going to create greater opportunities by doing that. But it's hard to let go, particularly in this day and age. We're looking around as we're seeing what our friends and families are doing and people everywhere across the world, what they're doing, and we base our success on everyone else. And we think we're going to somehow not get anywhere if we don't keep tuning into all that noise.
You know what? I remember I used to be like that being in the news media because I was constantly moving and constantly connected. And I had a difficult time really going inward. But not only that, even when you start something in a busy life, you're always looking at what is this other person doing? And then as you learn more about personal development and how you create using your thinking and your imagination, you realize there's actually no such thing as competition. It all comes from within. And your connection to a greater power is actually your edge. And then you can actually pull away and get really clear on where you want to go and not worry about what everybody else is doing. But that comes from doing the work every day, reading the books that you want to read. I mean, I think of the books that have made a huge difference. There's Neville Goddard is a great author. There was a great, Psycho-Cybernetics is a fantastic book. Maxwell Maltz, all about self-image. Think and Grow Rich is a great book. I mean, getting the right books in your hands and really just understanding how you can be in control of your world makes a big difference. And doing that every day. That's why the messaging every day is important.
How many times do you get people saying, but it's just where do I put that in my schedule? Like, where do I find the time to do that? Like to sit down for an hour and read some books in the morning or in the evening.
Yeah, all the time. But then I explain to them is, the only way to change your external is to change your internal, as within, so without. And so we talked about the program, meaning 96 to 98% of everything you do is a subconscious program. I like to think of it like a cell phone. I think it's a really easy analogy. If you have a cell phone and your cell phone is full or it's slow and you go to take a photo, the whole thing shuts down, right? At least in my case, it does. You try to take a photo and it shuts down. And the only way to make that work is you either get a new cell phone or you delete all the photos in your phone, right? If you're going after a goal and you haven't upgraded your internal program for, more money, more success, more confidence, you shut down.
Yeah.
So really the only way to make a change is by investing in that time to change your program. And so when we start to talk about that and they start to notice changes are happening, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. If I want this, I got to go in and actually change my program.
Clear some space.
Yeah, clear some space.
Interested in the, I said before, and you sort of touched on it as well, our past often holds us back, and we get to this point where we know what we don't want and we know what we shouldn't be doing, yet we continue to do it because our subconscious is aligned with goals that help us stay in that pattern. So setting new goals would help us break away from that pattern, right?
Absolutely. Yes. However, that's uncomfortable and that feels weird. And that's where
Yeah.
a lot of us don't realize that that's going to feel uncomfortable. So in my world, in Proctor Gallagher world, we call it the terror barrier. I mean, there's lots of different titles for it or labels for it, but you're absolutely right. Setting a new goal means a new program, and as you move out of your program, it's going to feel so uncomfortable. Your program is going to push back like frustration, stress, overwhelm. Like it feels so real, right? You know what it feels like when you're doing something new? It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But when we understand that's the process of change and the only way to the other side is to go through, you kind of get that you have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. And in my business life, I know that because I've changed things and I go, Jesus, this doesn't feel right. I should be doing this because I feel like if I'm not doing that, then I'm, going to somehow fail or miss out or whatever it might be. So, yeah, it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In the big things and small things.
Yeah, and that means that you're doing something new. That means you're pushing in that rate, that growth direction.
Yeah. So really helping women with their mindset around this and setting goals. Where do we go next from here?
Once they have a goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so once they have a goal, it's really about upgrading your program to meet that goal. I like to say grow into your goal. Okay. So I like to use this. I like to say, how would the person who has achieved your goal, it's a little bit of identity work, but it's a good exercise. How would they think? How would they act? And what would they do? Okay. So I'll sit clients down often and I'll say, okay, let's do some belief work. On one paper, I want you to write down where you're at. And on the other paper, I want you to write down your goal. Now, let's break it down to thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Okay, because remember, what you think causes you to feel, feeling causes you to take action, and actions give you results. So if you are in the morning, you sleep in, and your alarm goes off, and you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late for work. How do you feel? You feel stressed, right? When you're a stressful person, what kind of action do you take? You take stressful actions. So you might fall, you might spill your coffee, you might get in road rage. And then, of course, the action is, okay, you get to work on time, you ought not on time, you might get into a fight with your boss. But if you take another scenario and the alarm goes off and you're like, okay, I got this, you stay calm. What actions do calm people take?
Yeah.
Right? They take calm actions. They think, okay, when you're calm, you can think clearly, okay, here's what I need to do to get on time. Maybe I'll take this route instead. And the result is you get to work on time. Maybe your boss is late, so it doesn't matter. The point is, if you have a goal, think about where you are and think about where you want to go and look at the difference between those two. How are you thinking to get that goal to where you currently are now? How would the person who has that goal be thinking? How would they be feeling? How would they be acting? And that's where you can see the knowing. Yeah, you can find out where you got to make the shifts and the changes.
So with these goals you're helping the women with, are they sort of career goals? Are they big, audacious goals? Or are they more smaller goals? Like, does it vary? Like, or is there a pattern?
So most of the time, the women that I work with are looking for their purpose again, right? Maybe they're in one career, they want to leave that, they want to start their own business. Sometimes it's about releasing weight, which a lot of times there's emotion behind that. And maybe it's just feeling a little bit more fulfilled and less anxious. So those are what I on a regular basis deal with my clients. But what I try to get out of everybody is this C-type goal. And what I mean by that is the goal that really lights you up. And sometimes that takes a little bit of allowing and a little bit of dreaming, but we all have something inside of us that if we really ask ourselves what we want to do, it's there. Oftentimes we're afraid to even admit it, but I get them to set C-type goals. So an A goal is a goal you've done. A B goal is a goal if everything works out really well, you can do. So it's kind of like you've got an opportunity at a company new company, but the same type of job, that's a B goal. A
Mm-hmm.
C goal might be leaving your business, leaving the corporate world and starting a business. Like you don't even know how to do it. But
Yeah.
the point is, if you get a C type goal, there's skin in the game. You have a reason for wanting to do this internal work, and it's going to pull out what you need to pull out to grow into that person. So that's what I coach them towards, is like, what are we really going for here? Let's get deep. Let's really, really allow ourselves to grow. And when you start to think like that, you're more fulfilled, you're more energized, you feel like, oh my gosh, life is amazing. And it's because you're allowing yourself to follow your purpose, to follow your heart.
Yeah. And I guess you would find that purpose sort of evolves as they start to take these actions. They start to get more and more clarity on this C-type goal.
Yes, and also quieting that voice, because once you quiet that voice and you just have yourself, you can start to really understand what it is that you want. So a lot of times I'll say we have to slow down to speed up. And that's hard for some people, especially people, right? It's hard. But oh my gosh, when you start to do that, that's when you go from the hustle to the flow, because you can start to align your thinking with where you want to go. You can use the RAS, the reticular activating system. You can use gratitude to increase your vibration. And when you do that, you can go from alignment rather than force. I like to say, when you set your goal, okay, you start to use your imagination. Imagination is incredible. Visualization research is huge for what it can do.
Yeah.
But you start to visualize, of how that person will think, how they will act, how they will feel. And then you're going to get pops of intuition. You're going to get pops of intuition. This is where those great $1 million ideas come from. When you're lined up with the person you want to be, that's where these ideas come from. And then once you get that inspired idea, then you got to act on it. You got to take the action. But notice the alignment is first before the action. So a lot of times we go and we try to make it happen without thinking, okay, here's what I want. Here's what I see myself doing. Here's what I need to adjust with my program. And when we do it that way, things will flow rather than force. It doesn't mean it's all going to work out, but in theory.
Yeah. No, but I often find myself in my business life, trying to, like you said, force things to happen. And that's probably because of the overwhelm. I think, okay, I've got to do this, got to do that. I'm going to push this to try and get a goal, rather than taking the time to sit back down and go, what's the goal here? And allowing those intuition moments to come in and actually bring me the desired actions that will get me there more calmly and more stress-free.
Yeah. But we all do it because we're programmed that way, the whole world. But that's why we have to step away from that so we can get our power back. And when we do, it's basically like getting a download. And then from the download, taking the inspiration and moving.
You talked about vision there, and I think that's really important when it comes to goal setting. What do you do, and what do you prescribe to people to do around their goals and their vision activities? Like, what does a good vision activity look like?
So I would encourage people, and again, this is going to be different levels. So when I start to work with somebody, especially sometimes around weight release, it's really hard for people to go to the end result. There's a little bit of resistance there, but it's just like training your biceps or training your shoulders. The more you do it, the easier it's going to get. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, it's so hard for me to visualize, that's okay. You know what? You start really, really small and you can work up. So what I would recommend doing is, the best time to do this is when you are usually in the first thing in the morning or right before you go to bed. And the reason why is because the world is less, unless you're looking at your phone, is less chaotic. You want to get away from the program and you want to get really, really quiet and really relaxed. And then you just want to go in your mind and add as much detail as possible. But don't get overwhelmed with like, I have to make this perfect. Just think about your goal. You got your goal written down. Look at your goal and add the feeling behind it. So maybe it's, I want to start my own business and I want to make this much revenue. Write that down and think about, okay, so if I reach that revenue, what am I feeling like? Like what's a scene that can anchor this? Is it money coming into my account? Is it me speaking in front of, an auditorium filled with people? If you get one moment and you keep going back to that moment, that's really powerful. And crazy things have happened from people who do this. We've heard them, but I know even with my own clients, the crazy thing that happened, they're like, oh my gosh, I found this dress, or I was invited to speak and I realized it was like my vision. But it's getting clearer in your mind, right? The reticular activating
It's
system.
amazing how it works, huh?
It's amazing. Yeah.
To a lot of people, are just like, oh, it's a bit, no, it's woo-woo. Don't believe it. But the power of it.
Look at politicians do it. Professional athletes do it. Actors do it. I mean, the research is there. This stuff works.
Yeah. No, I love it. So what else are you working on at the moment that you're really excited about?
I just started a program called it's called Weightless: The Energetic Shift, and it's actually for women who I find when it comes to weight release, a lot of it is emotional. And I've noticed there's really 4 types of what I call weight archetypes. So 4 types of people. Okay, so there's the protector, the pleaser, the pusher, and the punisher. Okay, and these are basically
the protector, the pleaser, the pusher, the punisher.
Yeah,
gotcha.
that's right. Right. And so basically, energetic weight types, they're unconscious patterns. So they're formed from past experiences, emotional wounds, deep-seated beliefs, and they affect really how we hold, how we protect, how we resist releasing weight, how we go through the day. So it's not really about willpower or calories in this program. It's actually about rewiring the subconscious programming. And remember that statistic from the very beginning, 96, 98%, right? And so the protector, the core belief is, if I'm visible, I'm not safe. So they want to hold everything safe. It shows up as like hyper independence, fear of being seen, maybe tension in relationships. And the pleaser is about, okay, I have to make everyone happy. And so it shows up with like overgiving, guilt around taking time for themselves, saying no, lack of boundaries. The punisher, this one is big. The core belief is I'm not good enough. So it's about having that harsh inner critic, that all or nothing thinking. And then the pusher is about if I fall behind, my life is going to fall apart. Okay. And this shows up with burnout, exhaustion, high achieving, but disconnected from the body. So I found those are the 4 types of people in general.
Can you be crossed over between a couple?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can be crossed over. Absolutely. But there's usually 1 or 2. I have a quiz. I put a quiz. The quiz seems to work because then you can kind of see, where you are.
Is the quiz on your website?
It's on the website.
Yeah.
It should be on. Okay. Yeah. BUFFnation.com. It's right at the very top.
Okay.
And so, and what that does is it kind of shows you where your pattern is, because the thing is, often we don't realize the pattern that's at play. That's why they're called subconscious. And so what this does is it just brings it to light. And once we understand the pattern, then we know the new program that we need to put in and what we can release. And so that's what the program is. So it's about weight release, but emotional weight, and emotional weight is often tied to physical weight. So it's really powerful. It's 8 weeks and it's going to start in the fall. But that's the new thing that I'm working on. I'm so excited because it's like, it's 20 years of work coming together, right?
It's funny when you say that, because I mean, a lot of people listening and you'll just go, okay, well, I think I'm the protector or the punisher or whatever it might be. So yeah, the quiz is online there, wearebuffnation.com. And right at the top, there's a little button you click. So check that out. I'll stick the link in the show notes for that as well. Yeah, interesting. And I guess that emotional, like if you can figure out what sort of emotional type you are, not just for weight release, but for other aspects of your life, because our emotions play havoc in everything that we do, right?
Absolutely. So money, it's a big one. It's all the same, right? If you're that in one area, you're most likely that in another area. But the cool thing about it is once you understand the archetype, then I know the patterns to release. And I use emotional freedom technique to release some of these patterns. Emotional freedom technique is phenomenal. If you're just listening and you're not sure what it is, look it up. Great research behind it. It's been linked to helping with post-traumatic stress disorder, reducing anxiety, increasing happiness and confidence. And what I'll do is once we understand these beliefs, we'll use EFT as a way to release them so they don't have such a hold. And then, of course, we want to put in the new beliefs that are going to get you to your goal. So it's like we're just upgrading your cell phone.
Yeah. So the emotional what did you say from emotional EFT?
EFT, emotional freedom technique. So it's
Yeah.
tapping. It's a type of emotional
Right.
acupuncture.
And with emotions and feelings, what's the difference there? Because you talked about, how you feel is how you act, and that's obviously how you then get the results. What's the connection there?
So I believe in my teaching that you know the answer to something. Your body knows the answer before you even think the thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you might have either a trauma or you might have a limiting belief that you don't even realize. So if someone says to you, here's an opportunity to earn more money, you might be like, I want to earn more money, but inside you feel, but I don't think I can, or I'm not worthy, or I've got lack. You've got kind of that feeling. And so what EFT does is it helps neutralize some of those deep-seated beliefs so you can start to put new ones in. And so how we use it in this program is we identify core beliefs. Core beliefs are what, I talked about the program of your phone. They're the beliefs that are in charge of everything. They're the beliefs running the show. So if you want to make more money, but deep down you believe you're not worthy of making more money, you're always going to get not what you want, but what you believe. And so that's why this work can be so transformational, because it can actually go to the root and help shift it. And then you can more empowering belief in. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool stuff. And last question I want to ask you is just about values, because you touched on that, I think earlier in this interview, or maybe pre-interview, being aligned with your values, really important. Yes. And I love this topic. But I think most people, I think, are disaligned with their values. They don't even know what the values are. And what is a value?
Yeah, it's funny because I was one of those people that I had no idea what a value was. And my coach asked me, and I was like, what the heck are you talking about? And it's really like the themes of your life, the things that are important to you. For example, I'll go back to my situation because I was working 45, 50 hours a week. It was a great career, but one of my big values was health and taking care of myself. And so because I was working all that extra time, do you think I was actually taking care of myself? So I had a disconnect. One of my values was uplifting people and motivating people, but every day I was going on the news and talking about all the tragedy. So I was feeling stressed out. I was feeling disconnected, but what I was actually feeling was a misalignment of values. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling this way, it's a good opportunity to think about, okay, what is important in my life? And if you're wondering what is a value, you can Google it. Give me a list of 15 values, and you can start to make your own list and then start to see, okay, is the action I'm taking in my life aligned with this value, and how is it making me feel? And if the answer is no, you have your answer as to why you're feeling off. Yeah.
I love that. It's so important. Like, you can feel the friction, I say, when you're living a life that's not aligned to your values. You have this like burn, constant uncomfortableness. And once you get clear on your values and start going, okay, well, what are the actions I'm doing a day that align with this? And does that align with that? If it doesn't align, well, I need to try and not do that or do less of it and do more of these other things that actually align with my values. And the fulfillment you get from that process and the freedom you get and ultimately happiness is amazing. So,
Yes, and it makes making decisions easier because the question always needs to be, does this align with my values?
Yeah.
Right. And then you're doing everything in line with your values. And that's when you start to really live a purposeful life full of happiness and fulfillment, is when you start to see that alignment. And I know for myself, that was really big. And it took a while to do that. But I mean, I think of like my days now and they're awesome, but I've designed them that way, and it's taken 2 decades. It's taken some time to get there, but it's phenomenal when you take the time to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's not a sprint, right? Like, you have to do the work to get there.
The work, you got it. Yeah.
And everyone wants it today. Like, so you have to give yourself that kindness and patience to just get through it. It may not happen overnight, but it will happen, as they say. I know that was supposed to be my last question. Purpose. Talk to me about purpose. Does everyone have purpose? And what's your thoughts on this idea of innate purpose or ultimate purpose?
Yeah, I'm split on that because I know how we are influenced every day by the program that we have. And the program that we have currently running our cell phone, like I'm using an analogy, everyone, for the paradigm, giving us our results in our life, is impacted by all our experiences, positive and negative. So sometimes we can think something's our purpose, but it's only based on our program. And so that's when I think calling in a higher power, something beyond you, whatever you call that, God or universe, for guidance there can be really helpful, because this is something you can't do on your own. You have to open it up. And again, when you ask the question, you're going to get the answer and you're going to feel good. You're going to know you feel good. Oftentimes purpose is echoed in other areas of your life. So if you are put on this earth, right, to be a teacher, you're probably teaching in relationships. You're probably teaching in profession. You're probably taught ways when you know, as a kid, you can see, if you're creative, you're probably creating as a kid. You're creating now in a different way. There's signs, and it repeats itself, and you feel good. Yeah.
You feel good.
You feel good.
What lights you up? I often say. Actually, someone said that to me recently. What would really light you up in life if you could do it every day? And if you think about that, it's a great question to ask. I love it. There's been so many snippets in here that are just very powerful, quite simple, but very powerful. But you have to do the work on them, and you'll get the benefits.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, you're obviously being called to do the work, right? Because you're attracting this for a reason into your life. So take it as a sign. Yeah. And ask, okay, where do I need to do the work?
So, Lesley, how can people best reach you?
They can come to the website, wearebuffnation.com, and then we've got all our social channels linked there. And that quiz, again, is at the top. Men or women can do it. I've tested it on my son. I've tested it on my husband. It's still great information. Yeah,
I like it. I'll stick the links in the show notes, guys. Check it all out. Reach out to Lesley if you want to have a further discussion with her. Your energy is full. You're bright, enthusiastic. I love it. So thank you for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for the time. It's been wonderful.
Guys, check it all out at thehiddenwire.com. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. Well, there you have it. That is a wrap for this week's episode on the Hidden Wire podcast with Lesley Gordon-Christie. What a great conversation. As I said, a lot of little takeaways in there, and I hope you took notes. I think it's one of those episodes you could re-listen to again to just really clarify some of the tips that she suggests in the episode. I mean, about asking questions. What a fundamental, simple concept, but yet so powerful. And creating space in this overwhelmed world that we live in today. Creating space is fundamental to really discovering your inner purpose. And I really believe that. Hope you took some notes. There are show notes over at thehiddenwire.com, so check that out. Reach out to Lesley if you wish to connect with her. And guys, if we can help you discover more freedom, fulfillment, and happiness in your life, I would love to set up a coaching session with you. You can message me directly through socials, Instagram, Facebook, probably the best ways to reach me, or jump onto my website, which will be going through a relaunch very soon. But jump on there. There's some links in there to connect with me online as well. So have a great day ahead, and I hope you find joy today in your life.